The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." The Gospel of the Lord. Imagine yourself in this scenario. You're at a picnic or a party or something with a bunch of strangers, right? You're introduced to someone new, right? Brian, this is John. John, this is Brian, all right? And then the two of you are left there. And you have to continue the conversation. Now you know the person's name, but nothing else. So what's the next question? What would you ask? I imagine some of you would ask, "What are you doing here?" Right? I imagine many would ask, "So what do you do?" Right? Anybody come up with that question? Yeah. What do you do? I think we love to ask that question. What do you do? Right? We love it. It's such an American question. It's as American as apple pie. And why is that? America has given one and only one philosophy to the mankind's history of philosophy. And that philosophy is the philosophy of pragmatism. Right? Pragmatism is a philosophy that it basically says that one's truthfulness or usefulness, or actually its truthfulness or its value or its worth is connected to its usefulness. So it's pragmatic, right? It's useful, therefore it has value or worth. Right? This flashed into the philosophical framework of human history in 1870. One of the most famous pragmatists was John Dewey. John Dewey is one of the fathers of modern education. Right? So we've literally been schooled in pragmatism. We've been told a lot that our value, our worth, is based on our usefulness. Right? So the more work you do, right, the better you are, you're a better contributor to society, that kind of thing. I mention this because every time that I've ever read the story of Martha and Mary, I've always had people come up to me after Mass, and they've always expressed their frustration. How dare Jesus say, Mary has chosen the better part? She's not doing anything. Martha's doing everything. Because in our mindset, often we think that the more you do, right, the more value or worth you have, right? And I say, well, take that up with Jesus, right? Not me. No, Jesus said, Mary has chosen the better part, that she sits at the feet of Jesus and just, soaks in his presence, right? Mary, because she is so obsessed with doing, becomes very anxious, right? And if you know anything about kind of modern society, right? Anxiety has reached pretty much epidemic proportions. I'm working on a college campus or in a high school, right? So many struggle with anxiety. Just one example of kind of like why that is. The sense of, right, we're always so focused on doing, that we no longer have those built-in times of rest into our life. For example, right, so science has shown us that when we wake up in the morning, our body and our brain is kind of wired to meditation or to thinking. It's kind of this blessed time where you're really not supposed to be focused on what you're supposed to be doing for the day, but just thinking about life and some questions. That's why all the saints prayed in the morning, right? Because we wake up in this cool place. The moment that we go to the email or the text messages or the Snapchat or the Facebook notification, our brain jumps out of this place and goes into the more analytical part where it's concerned with all the doing. And that part it's a lot more anxiety driven, right? There's a lot higher levels of anxiety because we're like, what am I supposed to be doing now? What's the next thing on the list, right? And so the problem is if we wake up in the morning and within the first minute or two of our day, right, we turn to the phone or the computer, we immediately jump out of that place of meditation into the place of anxiety. And you can never go back, right? And if we're in this place of anxiety, what we do is we stay up there for the whole day, and the last thing we do before we go to bed, what we gotta do? We gotta check the email one more time, check the phone one more time, fall asleep within our hands. We go to bed in a place of anxiety too. And so we get very restless sleep, and we wake up, and we start the whole process again, right? We live in this heightened state of anxiety all the time because we're so focused on doing. I think the lesson that Jesus invites us today is to stop and realize that we just need to sit at his feet at times, right? We have to build that into our natural rhythm. It's built into our nature, right, the way we were created. We have to build it into our schedule. So I propose a good book. And it's not really a book, it's actually a bunch of letters. But it's called The Practice of the Presence of God. The Practice of the Presence of God. And it's written by a guy named Brother Lawrence. And he wrote this, I think it was 1670. So it's great. So because it's so old, it has no copyright, so it's free, right, which is the best price. You can go on Google, and it's only about 20 pages. So free and short, right? You couldn't ask for anything better, right? It's called The Practice of the Presence of God. And Brother Lawrence, they're really just letters that he had written to other brothers that he had in his Carmelite community. And he was really focused on this question of how to really sit at the feet of Jesus and just be in his presence. Like that was his driving factor. And the other reason he wrote is he wanted love to be the motivating factor for all that he did. Right? So he was thinking, like, if I pick up trash off the floor, I want to do it out of love for God and out of love for my neighbor. Right? He said, basically, I want to get to the point where every single thing I do is motivated by love. And so he realized that if he spent his time, some time, dedicated time every day, practicing this, being in the presence of God, right? And it's not hard. It's just sitting, closing your eyes, meditating, thinking about God is truly present here, right? And sometimes you would meditate on the mercy of God, sometimes on the love of God, sometimes on the justice of God, sometimes on his omnipotence or his eternal nature, right? He would just spend time each and every day just sitting, acknowledging the presence of God. And what he found out what happened was that time basically flowed out from that kind of the rest of his day, the rest of his life, the rest of his day. He found himself in a continual conversation with God, where he found himself continually aware of the presence of God. So when he came across trash from the ground, he would be in this conversation with God. He's like, all right, I'm going to pick this up, God, out of love for you, out of love for the creation that you have given us, out of love for my brothers and sisters who I share this world with, right? And he found that all of the doing that he was called to in his life, because we are called to do, but all that doing became motivated by love because of this time he would spend simply contemplating the presence of God. Right? So we sit at the feet of Jesus like Mary so as to be encouraged and strengthened and inspired to be able to do all the work, right, that God is calling us to.